Welcome to my video on the Halls of Amenti. Now, this is indeed another Ascension Ladder video. So what I'm talking about when I speak about Ascension Ladders is the initiation rites, which come in the form of like the 7 Hermetic principles or the 7 principles of Ma'at, or even connecting with your chakra system, which is another Ascension Ladder. These are all guidance, tools, universal laws to help us embody our experience as an Ascended Master ourselves in human physical form and gain mastery over this human life, right? So that's what it's all about. Now, just to remind you, on the 31st of October, 5 p.m. Central Africa time, the temple doors open again. I will be opening my classroom, which is specifically for the initiates, those who know, aka you. We're coming together, a beautiful collective, and we deep dive each month. And this is a free event as well. So, you know, there's nothing to worry about there. So you got no excuse. Come along. Unlock your mastery, remember, but we're going to be specifically diving into the 7 Hermetic principles of Thoth on this meet on the 31st of October. And we go into meditations, activations, unlocking it, and really kind of applying these principles. And then as the month unfolds to the next time, you kind of live by that. And you start each day, you kind of embody them more and more and more. So these classes that I hold, if you run them with the videos on the channel, kind of just brings an embodiment process deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. So it's got layers basically. So I invite you to that class. Do not forget, put it in your diary, and I will put the Zoom link in this post. So it will always be in the post. So now let's go back to the Halls of Amenti. Because in a way, this is a little bit of a sidestep to the Hermetic principles, which is why I wanted to do this video before we met for the temple. Because the Halls of Amenti, the keeper of the Halls of Amenti, is indeed Anubis. He was an Atlantean priest. Just like Thoth, except Thoth was a priest king, Anubis was a priest, and he's the keeper of secrets. So before he is the protector, and as we know him in Egypt, go and take that god or goddess back to the original form, the origin source codes. It'll take you back to Atlantis, and then up to the stars. And Anubis is very much the keeper of secrets. So now he stands in front of the door like that. He really does. Because remember, all of these realms I'm speaking of and all of these portals, they are mystery schools. Now, mystery schools was not a bricks and mortar kind of establishment. They were portals. They were only seen by those that knew, the adepts, the initiates, okay? So you had to have a certain level of enlightenment to be able to be granted access to them, and for you to grant access and open that portal, right? And that's what the Halls of Amenti is all about, right? Because these were places of learning. So even in the days of Akhenaten, I mean, he was the one that they say started the mystery schools back in the day, but that was a portal access, okay? And you had to know the frequency to be able to step into it, and then obviously be responsible for the lessons that you were going to be given. So I'm going to get into that now. So here we are standing with Anubis, front of the door, saying, right, do I let you in? Do I not let you in? There'll be a vibrational match, and of course he will stand aside. He doesn't say much, but he will stand aside and he'll grant you access. So let's talk about the Halls of Amenti. Straight away we go to Egypt. It's not always steeped in Egypt, because the Halls of Amenti can be likened to the underworld. But a lot of us also access the Halls of Amenti by thinking that it is above us. It all depends on the perception of the initiate. For me, I go to the underworld. For me, the Halls of Amenti, I access underneath the Great Sphinx, underneath the Great Pyramid, right? But there are also other entries to the underworld, because that's where everything is, because it's the womb. The Tor in Glastonbury, aka Avalon, that is also another entry point to the Halls of Amenti. St. Catherine's in Mount Sinai, which is Egypt. St. Catherine's Stargate is above you, so you can access the Halls of Amenti up that way, right? And like there's so many different portals. Those are just the few that I know of all over the world that will grant you access to the Halls of Amenti. So let's not pigeonhole it just for Egypt, because it's way bigger than that. But because I'm so frequency Egypt orientated, I'll probably go to that. So what is the halls all about? This is where we get it a little bit confused with the Akashic records, right? So the Akashic records are also accessed through Thoth, through the Sphinx, okay? Now, the Akashic records is your soul, is all about your soul wisdom. Everything to do with you as a soul, front, forward, back, upside down, inside out, all to do with your soul wisdom, right? So those are the libraries for that. So when we come to the Halls of Amenti, that is where you meet the Ascended Masters, right? Those are places of learning, and they have 3 layers of consciousness that you move through. This is where the ascension ladder comes in, which you can work with and apply in this now lifetime, right? So I'm going to get into the 3 levels shortly, but I just want to talk about the altar that you build, how you would experience the Halls of Amenti. How would that show up in your life, right? If you're not basically stood in front of the Great Sphinx in Egypt, right? How does that look on an everyday way? Okay, so for example, I've been doing a lot of altar work with all of us here, including myself, right? Now, when you are called, suddenly you'll just feel Isis all around you. And then maybe you go into a deep dive and you start to read books about her. You start to channel with her. You start to just really just go into those realms. It's because she's called you, and she's calling you because there is a soul aspect within you, which is now ready to come online, because you must gain mastery over that part of self, because she is you, you are she. Right? She's not separate of you. Or it may be Sekhmet, or it may be Merlin, or it may be Moses, or Joseph Arimathea, Yeshua. It matters not, but the masters will call you, right? So then what happens is, when one steps into that realm in a very responsible, masterful way, because you are kind of meeting spirit halfway, you build that altar. And on your altar, so let's just say it's Sekhmet. On that altar, you place Sekhmet in front of you. You bring her dragon's blood. You bring her cedar, and put some beer on there as an offering. And you really immerse yourself in the goddess. And you've now created this beautiful altar, which ultimately is a portal. Now, she's a dark mother, right? So she's most definitely going to take you to the underworld. Most definitely, she's going to take you to the Halls of Amenti. Most of them, all of them will. Because if you've gone that far to build an altar in the name and honor of that god or goddess or that being, then indeed you're being called to the Halls of Amenti. Why? Because you've done this before, right? So understand the power and the purpose when you open such portals, and the responsibility it takes for you to look after this portal, because you're basically you're entering in, right? So now here you are with Sekhmet, and you're sat there and you're like, whew, okay, right. So we're doing the altar thing. I'm doing my prayers every day, sitting there, lighting my candle and following guidance. So then what happens is she will take you into the Halls of Amenti, because you've now met her there. Because ultimately, when you meet with these gods and goddesses, that's where they meet you. They take you to the Halls of Amenti. That's where the ascended masters meet you. That's where the learning takes place, right? So now you're with Sekhmet, and then obviously initiation starts to happen. And initiation, as you can hear, I'm still very, very sick, and I'm still working through my initiation with her, because I'm still very much in the Halls of Amenti with her, because it's all about completion of karma. So you're not just going to skip through the daisies with this. You've got to face your shadow, and you have to be ready for that, which is why the Halls of Amenti is only granted to those that have a certain level of, have done a certain level of work. It's not an ego thing, like, you're not good enough. It's not about that. It's just about whether you are ready and you are prepared to go in and receive such initiations, because it's big work, right? And I think all of us right now are kind of at that point where we are accepting our power, and we're going, actually, I am a master myself. In you go to the Halls of Amenti, right? So then you're going to go through all of these layers, and if you ever feel that you're suffering on this side and you need to call counsel, you can also call that god or goddess up and then go into meditation and go and meet them. So you don't always have to wait to be called. You can just say, hey, I need some counsel now, and you go in and you meet them there, and you have your questions ready, right? So that's essentially how the Halls of Amenti works. Now, the way I see the Halls of Amenti as well is like a snakes and ladders scenario. So it is actually like the labyrinth. The labyrinth is a symbolic. We've seen the pictures of the labyrinth in Avalon, ancient times. It is a symbolic kind of like journey where you come to a few like closed walls. You've got to turn around and go back, and then you just keep following it and have patience and presence, because eventually you will be led through the labyrinth. But it's a symbolic journey of awakening, right? That is the Halls of Amenti. So you may go up 3 levels and you might fall down 4. You may raise up 10, you might fall down 2. Do you know what I mean? And that is the process of life. That is you gaining mastery in your experience, working with the gods and goddesses, working with the ascended masters, so you can gain mastery of your own experience. So when you're in the Halls of Amenti, you're in the underworld, man. You're doing the work. You know what I mean? You're facing your darkness, and you're unlocking, you're cracking the codes, right? So now I'm going to go into the 3 levels, okay? Because you could do a video on this and really go deep. So I'm trying to keep it as surface and digestible as possible. So the first level in the Halls of Amenti can be likened to the physical. So think about it. You turn up, you've got a little bit of a thing going, you've been granted access, you've gained access to this mystery school, and now here you are in the Halls of Amenti, right? So you're very much probably where you've started your journey, a full awareness that you're probably more physical than you're that. But hey, man, you're like, I'm here. I know there's something else, but right now I'm very stuck in my body in the physical 3D. So in a way, it's like almost like there is a significant shift in acknowledging the physical being as being very divine, and that it is actually a powerful portal in itself. So your understanding and your connection with the physical body shifts from that just being a body, right? So that's pretty much where you start when you turn up into the Halls of Amenti. You break through the layers of going, wow, there's so much more than the physical. Now I know. And you break away from the old belief systems that you live and die. Done, right? So that's your first level of mastery. Okay. Now, number 6, as I say, it's a lot more in depth than this, but this just gives you an idea. Number 2, the second stage, once you've kind of understood that, oh, wow, I'm more than a body, you move into the metaphysical. Okay. So the metaphysical, well, that's a whole realm on itself. This is where you really start to step into, like, you know, your initiations. This is where, you know, you might start to feel, you know, things being purged to the surface that you need to deal with. This is where you're going to be working with the Hermetic principles, and you're going to start to unlock them in your system and go, wow, going through the process of alchemy. You know, this is where you really start to learn on this second level. So you start to get a real taste and a whiff, and you start to experience. Now you're in the Halls of Amenti. You're like, right, we're doing this. There's a commitment, like, portion to this here. There's a commitment phase here. You're in it. You're like, yeah, I know I'm a master, but I don't know it yet. You know what I mean? So you're in the depths of the Halls of Amenti here. So this is the thick phase of your kind of like, you know, your ascension. Okay. Then when you get to the third level, mastery, that's what that's about. Mastery over the human experience. So you've gone through the physical and you've come out of the sludge and those lower chakra vibes, which is all about money, survival, wanting things, and, you know what I mean, thinking you're not safe or whatever it might be. Once you've got past all of that shit, okay, you then come to the next level, and your teachers, in this case Sekhmet, whatever, will start to show you this is your alchemical powers. Do you understand that you are, you know, this is where the principle of mentalism will come in, because once you master the mind, everything changes. We're going to be getting into that when we do the 7 Hermetic principles, understanding and knowing the power of the first principle, how it unlocks all the other 6. Because once you crack that nut, as it were, and you start to become master of the mind, perception is everything. So you have complete positive control, not bullying control. You have positive control in your outcomes. Now you can become the master. What does that mean? That means you know that you can alchemize anything from this into that in every given moment. You know how to work with the principles. And then that's essentially what the mastery is all about. So once you get to the end of the Halls of Amenti, as it were, say you've completed the course, right? You then sit there and go, and I believe we have in other lifetimes and dimensions, which is why we're masters. But in this lifetime, we've kind of started from the beginning. So once you've completed the Halls of Amenti and you get to the end and you're like, right, awesome. What are you going to do? You as a teacher and as a high initiate now goes back to the beginning of that labyrinth, because there's going to be a ton of other people waiting, scratching their heads going, listen, I know I'm something more than a body, but I don't quite know where to go from here. And then that's when we go back and we gather more people to move through. Then we join forces with them. Then we all go back to the beginning again, move more people through. Can you see how we tip the scales by working through the Halls of Amenti and having a willingness to be there? Because as I said, every single initiatory rite will grant you mastery. They've all got the same common denominator. Lessons, initiations, realizations, third eye opening, perception is everything. So that's the Halls of Amenti, part 1, I would probably say. And then as we move into the Hermetic principles on the 31st of October, come to class, and this will make a whole lot more sense, because all of these initiatory rites, they blend into one another. You'll find once you kind of crack the code on one, you'll go, I kind of get that. And you'll go, oh, well, that's actually that. Oh, that's that. And that's what they mean by simplicity. That's where you're unlocking your levels of mastery. That's what it looks like in life. I mean, we're not all going to look like airbenders. I think that's what we get, like, you know, we get, we misunderstand. Are we going to be there with like staves and be like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, kind of like, you know what I'm saying? Like warriors, like in the movies and everything like that, and throwing fireballs out of a hand. Kind of, yeah, but like energetically, probably. But physically, no. It looks different. Mastery is about kind of that calmness, that sense of peace. The ultimate feeling that you will feel at the end of it is having full access to your presence. I have to pause for silence for that. Full access to your presence. No noise there. No noise there. Here. And that is where everything happens. That is the balance. That, people, is union. So that's your 101 there. So I'll be seeing you in class on the 31st. But other than that, let this ascension ladder marinate. And see you in Halls of Amenti. Peace.